Hey guys, I'm Chris.
And I'm Andy.
And today we've got a special video. We're going to be giving you guys our top 10 favorite Pixar movies. Since Onward just came out and Soul is coming out later this year, we decided that now would be a good time to do this. So we're going to do this in the same style that we did our top 10 favorite movies of 2019. One of us will give our 10 through 6, then the other will give their 10 through 6. Then we'll go 2 through 5, 2 through 5, and then we'll each give out our number ones. So hope you guys enjoy the video, and let's get right into it. One last thing before we give out our lists. We have not told each other our top 10, so this is a surprise for both of us. So coming in at number 10 for me is going to be Onward, the recently released Pixar movie. I just loved the brotherhood storyline. It really pulled at the heartstrings, and Tom Holland and Chris Pratt had such good chemistry as Ian and Barley. I enjoyed this one, and I'll definitely buy it on Blu-ray, and I'm excited to check it out again. Coming in at number 9 for me is going to be Toy Story 2. I'm not going to talk a lot about this since we did our ranking/review back in the summer, so you can go check that out. But this is my least favorite of the original trilogy, but I still love this movie. I love seeing Woody and Buzz together, and Bullseye and Jesse are introduced, and Zurg's in there, and Prospector Pete is a good villain. All around, it's just a fun time, and Al's Toy Barn's a great setting, but I enjoy this one. But next up at number 8 for me is going to be Inside Out. One of the most emotional Pixar movies. It's literally about emotions. And Joy, she's a great protagonist, and how they function in Riley's mind is cool. Anger's funny because I relate to him. Overall, it's just a funny movie, and I like the creative writing, especially the character of Bing Bong. It gets me every time. Number 7 for me, this might be low for some of you. It's still a classic, and I absolutely love it, and that is Finding Nemo. I've seen this movie probably 50 times. I watched it all the time growing up in elementary school, and I still enjoy it a lot. Just the story is timeless, with Nemo getting lost and Marlin teaming up with Dory, who has memory loss, to find it, and the shark Bruce. There's just so many great supporting characters, and the main journey has so much emotional heart to it. I enjoyed this movie, and it just is a little lower than the ones above it, because I love every Pixar movie, basically. But coming in at number 6 for me, this is probably a shocker for you and a lot of people, The Incredibles. One of the best animated superhero of all time, in my opinion. I love Spider-Verse, but this is better. It's such an original story. Brad Bird directed the hell out of it, and who would have thought that Pixar would have made a superhero movie? Not me, but I grew up watching this one. I really enjoy it, and it falls short on my list a little.
Yeah, that's a pretty good list right there. There's some shockers on it, and I would not include Onward in my top 10 whatsoever, but I respect your decision, of course. So for my number 10, one that you actually disagree with, funny, is WALL-E, and I love WALL-E. It has a really good message to it about the environment, I thought, and I thought that the character of WALL-E was really fun to play with, like to see him play with all the trash and stuff. And then when Eve, I think that's her name, or Eva, comes to Earth finally, and her and WALL-E build that relationship without using words. Pixar did so good in this movie. And then of course once they get up to the spaceship and everything like starts happening and unfolding, it's good. And I love the ending of this movie. Yeah. So
I'm gonna cut in here.
Yeah.
And this is the hottest take you'll ever hear on this channel. WALL-E's the worst Pixar movie. Go ahead.
It's not worse than Cars 2.
Garbage.
Or Cars 3.
Garbage.
Or The Good Dinosaur.
Garbage.
Or Brave.
You can go.
But WALL-E has a great message to it about the environment, and I think that's what makes it stand out. So number 9 is Inside Out for me. Like you said, all the emotions in this movie are so good. I can relate to a lot of them too. And then of course Riley and Joy is the main character, and Sadness and Joy go on the adventure, I'm pretty sure, right?
Fear by Bill Hader, he's funny too.
Yeah, Bill Hader's great in this movie. But of course Bing Bong is the standout, and of course that scene whenever he dies is super emotional. Maybe even it is the most emotional Pixar scene. It gets me every time. And then by the end of this movie, I loved what the writing did. Pete Docter did a great job with this. So number 8 is Coco, a pretty new Pixar movie. Made my top 10, and I love this movie. Miguel as the main character, great protagonist. And just seeing where he starts in this movie, just like, I love the environment of this. The animation looks so clean. It's definitely one of the cleanest looking Pixar movies, I think. And then once he gets up to the dead world and he meets like Hector, and then all the chaos goes on and stuff. And then of course that final scene whenever he's singing to his grandma, Remember Me, which is such a great song. I just love this movie for sure. So number 7, I'm not going to talk about these next two for long because we already have. Number 7, Toy Story 2. Like you said, I was thinking about it, and it is my least favorite of the original trilogy. And that's just because there's some slow parts to it, but what's good in it, and it works, like seeing them in the early stages of the movie at Andy's room, like getting taken by the garage sale guy, and then, of course, like as the journey goes on, they're trapped inside the apartment, and then the other ones are at Alice Toy Barn. I loved all that stuff. So number 6 is Toy Story, the original, back to back. And Toy Story is just a classic Pixar movie. I love everything about it. There's not one boring scene in this movie. It flows perfectly. It's like 90 minutes, I think. And just like getting introduced to this world, Joss Whedon wrote this movie, and he did a great job writing it. Of course, Woody and Buzz, iconic characters, and then just seeing all the rest. And then Sid, oh my god, hilarious.
So now I'm going to go through my 5 through 2. So coming in at number 5 is Monsters, Inc. Classic Pixar right here. Mike and Sully, probably one of the best duos in Pixar. It's just hilarious to see them interact. And then when Boo gets involved, it's funny seeing them go and scare the kids. And Randall's a great villain, voiced by Steve Buscemi. All around, this is just classic Pixar, and I love it. Number 4, the one that started it all for Pixar, Toy Story. I adore this movie. Infinitely rewatchable. To Infinity and Beyond. I'm not going to say much more because you already know it's a classic. Number 3 for me now. These are the top 3, so these are the best for me. Number 3 is Up. Nominated for Best Picture. Oscar winner for Best Score. I think it has probably the best score in any animated movie I've ever seen. Michael Giacchino, major props to you. The first 10 minutes, perfect, and it crushes me. I cry every time. And the rest of this movie is one of the best adventures I've ever seen. I just really am attached to these characters, and Doug is hilarious. Kevin is funny, and the villain is great. All around, one of the best scripts in an animated movie I've ever seen. But my runner-up, number 2, just rewatched this last night. That is Ratatouille. I adore this movie. Every time I watch it, it makes me hungry. It makes me want to visit Paris. But I fall in love with the character of Remy. He's such a lovable protagonist, and his interactions with Linguini are perfect. And Ego, one of the better Pixar villains. All around, just the final moments of this movie with the Ratatouille dish being made. It's just Pixar magic. I love it, and it's my number 2.
Yeah, that's a pretty good list, of course, and I'm pretty shocked that Ratatouille is your number 2 because Ratatouille isn't even in my top 10.
Great movie.
It's really good, of course. I need to rewatch it, honestly. That's the main thing. So, number 5 for me, and this was really hard to do to make this top 5, but number 5 for me is the Best Picture nominee, Up, from a couple years ago. I love this movie, like, pretty much everything about it. It's almost a perfect 10. It's probably a 9.5, honestly. But Carl, as the main character, and Russell, they just have such good back and forth. The dogs in this movie are hilarious, like, with their tiny voices and their big voices. And then just, it's so satisfying when he gets his house, like, across Paradise Falls and everything, and what needs to happen, happens. And I just love this movie. Everything about it works perfectly. So, number 4 for me is a classic, one that I saw in the theaters when I was a kid, and I loved everything about it, and I still do, and that's Finding Nemo. I mean, Nemo is such an iconic Pixar character, and I loved just being underwater, you know, with Pixar. And just the whole opening of this movie with his mom dying, setting the tone. And then, of course, like, him getting kidnapped, him touching the butt, them going on their little journey to get him and everything, inside the whale's mouth. There's just so many iconic memories in this movie, and it just is, like, sticks up there for me.
So quotable.
Yeah, for sure. And then the little girl that shakes them in the bag, too. I forgot her name, but she's horrible.
Darla.
So, number 3, here's the top 3 right here. This is a classic for me. I loved it when I was a kid. Still love it to this day. Monsters, Inc. I mean, it's just so timeless. Like, Sully and Mike, like you said, have such a great relationship. And Boo, being incorporated in this movie, works so well. Randall is one of my favorite Pixar villains. He's so, like, slimy and funny. And then just, like, going through the doors and stuff. I just liked the adventure throughout this. And then I also like the scene whenever they're, like, going through the doors, like, on the, like, line in the end. Yeah. It just is a great, like, climactic ending to it. So, Monsters, Inc. definitely number 3. And I did like Monsters U, but I want a sequel to Monsters, Inc. Like, after Monsters, Inc.
That'd be interesting.
So, number 2, this is a big one for me. And I love this movie. It's almost my number 1. And it is the best animated superhero movie of all time, and that's Incredibles. I mean, everything about this works. Like, the whole family dynamic is perfect. Seeing it start off with, like, him being young and then Elastigirl being young in Frozone, it just is so good. And then seeing the origin of the bad guy syndrome, it just works perfectly. When he's a kid and then he grows up to be, like, his number 1 fan. And then just as the movie goes on, they just have to get into all their superhero stuff. The score in this is great. The directing is great by Brad Bird. He did such a good job. He's really creative. And, I mean, just all the characters really stood out to me. Dash and Mr. Incredible standouts for sure. And then that little final battle with the robot and then having to save Jack and then his cape got caught in the airplane. Just, like, it shocked me when I was a kid, and it's still pretty brutal to this day. That might be the most brutal thing in Pixar, him getting sucked into the airplane at the end. But it all works perfectly, I think.
Yeah, that's a solid 5 through 2 right there. If my math's correct, that means we're both down to number 1, and I have a feeling it might be the same movie.
Yeah, I think it is.
So we'll say at the count of 3. 1, 2, 3. Toy Story
3,
yeah.
of course. I mean,
Pixar
this is
gold.
just miles ahead of all the other ones, I think. And we've already talked about it before, but like just this movie got nominated for Best Picture. It almost won that year. That's how good it is.
I mean, that was one of the most competitive years at the Oscars. If that was like 2007, for instance, or like 2005, it wins Best Picture.
Yeah, that was when Social Network was up, right?
Yeah, and
it didn't even
Inception,
win.
King's Speech, all those movies.
The best movies didn't even win that year. But Toy Story 3, I mean, what a timeless story that just shows, like, the evolution of Woody and them. And then to the end, like, whenever they're all holding hands, it's just, like, if there was no Toy Story 4, this would be the perfect wrap-up, I think.
Yeah, the plotting to just break out of the daycare, and Lotso is probably the best Pixar villain.
He is. And it's so entertaining, too, when they're inside the daycare and stuff.
When Buzz gets turned to, like, Spanish version of Buzz, it's just great. And
the baby.
Yeah.
Big baby. And then, of course, like, the ending, like, the
Yep.
last 30 minutes or 20 minutes, whenever they're all holding hands. Just, of course, like, oh, my God.
The final moments of this movie that really get me every single time when Andy gives away the toys to Bonnie, and it really shows, like, the phase of life where you have to move on. And
I think that is actually...
I relate to that still, and it's probably the most emotional stuff in Pixar.
I think that actually is, that scene is actually the best, like, scene in Pixar.
Yeah.
Like, with Andy giving his toys to Bonnie.
It's outstanding.
And then, of course, whenever he holds back Woody, like, that just gets me every time. And then whenever he just says goodbye and she waves to them with their toys, like, it's just giving me chills right now thinking about it. The writing in this movie is, like, on another level. Like, this will always be Pixar's #1. I don't think they'll ever be able to beat it. It's so good.
That's a wrap for our top 10 favorite Pixar movies. Hope you guys enjoyed. Be sure to comment your top 10 down below, and if you agree or disagree with our lists. If you enjoy WALL-E and you want to, like, flame me in the comments, you can do that. But if you haven't already, please consider subscribing to the channel. We'd love to have your support. We're having a lot of fun with the channel. We've got more content coming soon because there's a lot of new releases coming in March, and we'll have more Pixar videos in June when Soul comes out. So until next time, see you guys later.
See you guys.